Okay, good evening to you, class. I'm Roy Yancey, your professor. And for the next 7 weeks after tonight, we're going to be discussing quality and lean management. And so during this course, you're going to be afforded the opportunity to earn your yellow belt. And we'll go out and take a look at that site and discuss what benefits you have in having that certification. So first, I welcome you and appreciate you showing up. But we're in the class. I've got the screen shared with you, and this is our syllabus. It has my cell phone, which is in the heading here. You can use that as a Google cell phone link to my office desk. And I try to answer that at least a couple times a day, any text that I get sent. But the best way is to send us a message through the inbox. And as you can see here today, I've got 17 students that have questions and the responses. As soon as I finish my classes today, I'll make sure I'm in there answering those. So when I come into a grade or visit any of my work, this is where I start, is answering your inbox questions. And as you see here, I've got 5 classes I'm teaching this summer. This is probably about the 34th time I've taught quality and lean. So really enjoy that we've been able to add the certifications to our courses. Not only does it earn you college credit, but it also makes you more valuable when it comes to your employability. We've actually had students that come to our class that already have an MBA, a master's degree, and they didn't get that many supply chain classes. So they are in our courses, are in the certifications to make them more useful and more promotable in their current positions. So, of course, my pooches want to be part of the class. Every time it seems we start, my wife's also a teacher for Ivy Tech. We get into a course, and that's when they want to be vocal. So she's helping out. She's going to take them outside for me if they need to. I think they're going to need to. So this has what we want to cover in our course, the major learning objectives. And it also has course content listed. And with the volume of area here that we're covering, you're going to see that this is pretty fast-paced class. The due dates, if you show up today or you finish work today, then you can't be dropped for non-attendance. I have to send a report out for anybody that hasn't checked into the class after we have our class today, and then they'll be asked if they're going to stay or if they're going to withdraw. The last day withdrawal, of course, is in week 6 for any of your classes, and for us that falls on July 12th. A withdrawal would have a W on your transcript, but it wouldn't count in your GPA. I usually don't have a lot of people that withdraw. I mean, my classes, I work with the students. They got jobs, they got family. I've had people that sometimes we have to give them extensions, or if a worst case scenario, you're in an accident or something, we can give you an incomplete, and you have up until the middle of September to get your work finished to get your grade. So I usually don't lose students if they start off with me and they actually, keep up with the work, then they do really well. As far as communications, you can email me. My phone is connected to my Ivy Tech email. You can text. You can send me messages. But if there's a reason you need to reach out to me, I will make sure that I take the time to respond to your concerns. The reason I want you to use the inbox is I'm already online and I'm looking at our courses. And if it's a question about a grade or if it's a question about an assignment, I've got our class, I can open up and I can find that information and respond to you a lot more quicker. If I'm just out and about and I get a email or a text, I may not be near uh, my desk or near a place where I can check in on the class. It makes you'd have to wait for a little while until I got back to that. I plan on having a live meeting with you each week. If there's a situation that shows up where technology fails, I'm living out in the middle of Madison County. We have a dish stuck in our yard pointed at a water tower. And sometimes it's sketchy if the weather changes or, there's a heavy demand. But usually in the evening, it's not that bad. And one of us can watch a TV show. But if something happens where it becomes a necessitate for us to have it recorded, I'll make sure that you're told up ahead as soon as I know if there's a situation. This is what our course. Okay, thank you. This is what the breakout for the course grade looks like. You have an introduction discussion, and I see that the majority have already finished that. And then at the end, we'd like to know how the course was and if you earned your yellow belt. And maybe if we we are working on putting together the green belt, the next level, as one of our courses, if that'd be something you'd be interested in participating in. The 5S project, you see that has a serious chunk of change connected to it. It's 330 points. I'll explain that project to you in more detail, and there's examples of student work, but it's basically you taking something that needs organized. It could be your pantry, it could be your garage, it could be a project at work that's just always irritated you. But I'd like for you to do something that's going to make your life for you or your family a little bit easier and still give you college credit for it. But you're going to take an area that needs organized, and you're going to go through these 5 different steps. These S's are the English version of Japanese terms that are going to allow you to sort through all of the different items and find out which ones need to be donated or thrown away. Then it lets you set up a better system to where you can see them and find them. Sometimes that entails labeling, so that if somebody else borrows a wrench or a broom or your kids' toys, they know where it goes back. So then you're going to show how to standardize that. Like you'll have like a checklist or something where you come back and you do that just to see if everything that we're supposed to be once a week, once a month, what have you. So that 5S project, most students report that being rewarding to them, that they really enjoyed it. This VSM is a value stream map, and it's basically it's breaking down a process in steps from beginning to end. And between each process, there's some sort of delay where you have to reset something, or you got to walk to somewhere, or you got to have another piece of equipment or another operator or something and get involved in it. But we're going to make it pretty simple. I mean, it's 150 points, and it basically is you making a sandwich. And so the example and the assignment talks about making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I've had a couple students allergic to peanuts, so you can make a sandwich out of any 2 ingredients you want. But you're going to use your camera, your phone, or have someone else video you actually putting together a sandwich. I know that sounds juvenile or a little kindergarten-ish, but you're going to take the video and look at the timeline bar as you go through each one of the steps, and you're going to enter in. We got a downloadable 5S chart. You're going to actually put in how many seconds it took you to do each one of those steps. Then, so let's say it takes you 3 minutes to put this sandwich together. Then we wanted you to tell how long would it take to make the second sandwich. And so when you're looking at value stream, there's certain things that are part of a setup, you know, like you got to go find the bread, you got to go get a knife out, you got to get a plate out. And then there's certain parts of like maintenance at the end where you put the bread away, you put the dishes in the sink, you tidy up everything. And so you wouldn't necessarily have to take those same steps to set it up or to maintain it or put it away. And you're going to take this chart, which when I show it, it'll make a lot more sense. And you're going to subtract all the delays out of it in the setup and the shutdown. And you'll be able to tell how much time and effort it takes to make the second sandwich. So the reason you're doing this is in a supply chain environment or a manufacturing environment. These studies are done to find out how to employ labor and how much scheduling needs to occur to have enough manpower, woman power to get the job done. And so we need to actually time things to make sure that what's the standard. This is what it should take, and this is what it could take, and this is when there's issues involved in it. But we're stripping away all the distractions just to find out what is in that value stream that consumes our efforts. Then we got quizzes. And I also see that like at least 2 of you have been out to Six Sigma and you started on your yellow belt. Those are the quizzes. There are 24 chapters that have questions that you answer at the end of the small video presentation. And each one of those are worth a point. So you're going to pull 227 points out of that. And then your actual yellow belt certification, 300 points. You have to score at least a 70, and there's no time limit on how much time you take to take the exam. You take it at home. You're not going to have any kind of a requirement to go into campus or to have Proctor U or any of that stuff wired to you. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you finish the last chapter, so I'm going to knock this out. It takes about 30 minutes, 45 minutes to take. It's all multiple choice. You will see the same questions that you saw when you took the quizzes. They don't try to trick you up by adding other stuff or moving stuff around. And if you struggle and you don't get to the 70 on the first attempt, you have unlimited attempts. So I think I've had a couple students say it took them 3, maybe 4 times, and then they admitted that they really didn't study that much beforehand. But if you look at the quizzes, because you can have access back to your quizzes and see what you put in there, or you can take a screenshot of them or to use as a study aid. But for the most part, everybody gets through it the first time. Don't feel, there's no record showing that you took it 100 times or anything like that. But you get your certification, whether you get 70 or 99, you get 300 points. That's my main focus in most of my classes, is to get my students to earn the certification that's in the course. That's the A, if you look at it the way I look at it, is you're leaving here with more knowledge about lean and quality management, and you got a certification to prove it besides our 3 credit hours. And then in-class activities, we will have a couple things that we'll do through the week. It's to try to break distraction and to let you guys talk a little bit, but that's 10 points a week for participation, basically. So it's 1,122 points that you can earn in the course, and those odd points are because of the giving you credit for every one of your quizzes. And the majority of the people either pass this with an A, or they don't do the yellow belt, and they squeak out a C. But I go back and aggravate them until they actually do. I said, look, this is just effort to go take this exam. You can take it as often as you like. There's no time limit. Come on. And so I usually do get them back to taking their yellow belt. I emailed this to you earlier, your syllabus and your course summary, the calendar. But each week you're going to be doing 3 different chapters towards finishing your yellow belt. And this week we've got the discussion where you introduce yourself. So there's no other discussions other than the feedback at the end. So this isn't an online course. It's a virtual Zoom class. So we don't give you all that online prove that you're in the class busy work. So we got the date for participation, and then we got 3 chapters. Next week, you're going to have 3 chapters and the date where we're going to do some type of participation. The 3rd week, you're going to tell me what you want your proposal to be about doing your 5S project. Like, I've looked around for 3 weeks. I found I want to do my tool shed, or I want to do my trunk in my car. You know, their imagination is the limit. I don't really get too much in the details about what you do your project on, but by week 3, I kind of like to have an idea that you gave it some thought and that you're actually, you know, where the template is. We're going to show you that. If you notice on chapter 7, it says 5S. And so you're going to actually do a chapter out at Six Sigma about 5S, and that's where the download is to get you started on doing it. So week 4, midterm, 3 chapters. Then we got week 5, coming back from the 4th of July, 3 chapters. Week 6, 3 chapters, and the DSM assignment. And so that's where you're going to make this peanut butter jelly sandwich video. You're going to send me a link to the video. You can upload it to YouTube or to your Ivy Tech. Everybody has like a G drive that you can store things on, and you can give me a link to that. And then you're going to turn in your chart that actually tells how long each one of the steps took. And then you're going to type in how long the second sandwich would make to take it. We go out to week 7. We got this time 4 chapters, because chapter 22 is the last chapter that has a quiz in it. It's going to then make you in week 7 ready to go take your certification exam. So in week 8, that's when the final day to turn in your 5S project. And chapter 23 and 24 are just telling you about the next levels in like your green belt, your black belt. They're explaining how Six Sigma works in the recognition of the certification that you can earn. And then you got your certification exam. So that's what our 8 weeks look like. This is what it looks like to earn the grade. It's got my contact information. And so that's kind of giving you the ground floor introduction / orientation. So I'm going to drag over our course out on Six Sigma. And I don't know if I give you guys a link to it. First of all, can I ask, is anybody having any issues getting their access to Six Sigma? Our local bookstore is supposed to be handling all the access codes, and those should be emailed to you, or they mail them to you physically. But I can give them a call or an email. I'm over there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I could just go down and say, hey, I got 2 students, whatever, having issues getting their certification. They usually send me an email saying, well, we sent everybody in the class their code. They send a bulk email out to everybody, or they mail it out to them. So it comes to you in an email from the bookstore, and there should be like a 5 or 6 letter number code that you fill in when you go out to the site. We don't want you buying access to it because you're going to pay more than what you're charged for your course fees to take this class as an Ivy Tech student. There's a different rate if you're an Ivy Tech student versus somebody that's trying to take this commercially outside of Ivy Tech. And that's something to remember when you get ready to, if you say, I want to go ahead and become a black belt or a green belt, is that if you're an Ivy Tech student, you're going to get that a lot better setup. So I flipped over here just to show you, here's where your certification exam takes place. You just click on this section here, and that's when you start it, and that's when you can retake it. It's your convenience at home. If you want to come into the office or you want to come into library or something and make sure you got good internet, that's perfectly, you're perfectly welcome to do that. So I went out to our site, and it's courses.sixsigmaglobalinstitute.com. So I will put that link. I think I might have put it in the message already, but I will put that in an announcement to make sure that everybody can get out here. And as I said, I've already seen work from like 2 of you, so I know that at least 2 of you got your stuff activated and you've come out. So we're going to look at the full course. That's where you actually do these quizzes. The bad part is I don't have a backdoor access to this course. In other words, I can't see your work as you complete it. And some of our third-party organizations, they provide that to the instructors, so we can grade your stuff or move it over to the grade book. Unfortunately, these folks, this is one of their newer endeavors, working with a college, and so they haven't ever had anybody ask for that. And they're still working on developing a backdoor route for us to be able to see your progress. But besides the course, you also have these flashcards. There's like 2 decks of them that have 50 terms or 50 questions with the answers on them. So if you're getting ready to take the exam, I always suggest you go out and run through the flashcards once. It helps you refocus on the different terms that you're going to see. So opening up the full course, you have the creator here, and he gives you an overview of the course for 5 minutes. And then he gives you directions on how to download the templates. They're pretty simple. You just click on them, and then they go into your download folder. If you haven't made a folder for your courses, you probably might want to, because there's 5 or 6 templates in this course, and they're useful tomorrow at work. I mean, I'd go through and download all the templates today, and then you've got these that you can go back to. They're Excel spreadsheets, but they are already formulated. They're already set up that you can do different types of functions with. So there are templates that go along with the presentations. And then we have the actual presentation itself, and they're narrated slides. They run anywhere from, I think this first one is 19 slides. I think the largest one is something like 22. So it might take you about 8 minutes to go through it and let the narrator give you the information. If you'd rather just read the slides and go on and get into the quiz, you're welcome to do that too. But this has got all the titles of the 24 chapters that are part of the Yellow Belt certification. And as I say, we're going to knock out 3 a week. So we got the introduction, basic, Lean, Six Sigma, and then we've got the DMAC, which is how you do problem solving. And these are universal terms that are used with quality control, process improvement, waste reduction, safety, that are in the work sites. So no matter what you're doing, even if it's not supply chain, you can use this certification to move you ahead in your career. It's just making you more organized, and it's making you aware of ways to identify problems and do problem solving, identify waste, and do process improvements. So no matter where you are, that's going to be helpful and save money and save frustration for you and your coworkers. There's a couple case studies in here. If you look at it, we've got Akron's Children's Hospital. We've got Ben and Jerry's ice cream. We got OFO bicycles. Those are 3 different examples or case studies that they bring in and tell you a short story about, and then they'll ask you about the different processes that they use in that particular situation. So it's a well thought out course, and I've went through the yellow, the green, and the black belt. Chris, my partner, the program chair, as he's working on his master black belt. Each of the different levels give you a more in-depth process understanding. What I like about it is I've taken other courses that had to do with Six Sigma, and they get so wrapped around the statistics that they miss the forest for the trees. It becomes a math class. And so I like the way that the author has said, we don't have the time to make you a mathematician. So what we're going to do is show you the equation, explain what that equation does, and now you know how to find this equation. So they don't require you to break out a pencil and do any kind of math. They want you to get the understanding of the process. There's so much software out there, and these downloads have these different equations embedded in them. So you can just add in the time or the numbers, and it will tell you what your statistical probabilities are and what your forecasts and all. It's a tool that you can use without learning the math. So in real world, they're not issuing pencils to you and saying, hey, figure out how to improve this by using a statistical approach. In real world, they're saying, how do we fix this? And so that's the approach that this course takes. If you take higher level, master level, you probably get into some statistical math. I had 2 years of it through my degree. So save that for when you're in the master level. This is what just a quick push through on what this looks like. You can see that he has over on this timer bar, it's telling you how long that slide's going to have any speech to it. If you don't want to hear the slides, you can, of course, mute it. But he has a pretty decent voice and he's the guy who writes this. He's the guy who teaches it. And he's who got it certified. And so this has got a very good reputation, this company does. We did all the homework on it to make sure any of our third parties that are offering certifications embedded into our courses for the logistics program are reputable and recognized internationally as a certification that would be helpful to our students. And so this talks about helping professionals perform better. I'm not going to try to read slides to you when we meet each week. The guy who wrote this and who narrates it does the job excellent. I don't think we need to meet for me to play the slides for you. That's not my intention either. I think that we should meet to discuss what's going to happen in those 3 chapters. Ideally, you've done them before we meet, and so then you have something that you could add to the discussion or questions that you might have ran into when you were going through the 3 chapters. But that's how I'd like to spend our time together. And I don't see 8:30 being a realistic time for us to go that far, because we're really only going to be updating on what your assignments are and your projects, and then reviewing what you did online. You're already going to be spending a protracted amount of time out on this site. So I'm not going to drag you through 3 hours every Tuesday just listening to me babble. We'll get you in. We'll update all of where we're supposed to be that week, answer questions, and then you guys can go on to supper or do whatever you want to for the evening. So I thought this was interesting, talking about Motorola being one of the companies that gets credit for coming up with the history of starting it. And this, I've been to a couple seminars where Jack Welch or his representatives had told about how they did process improvement for GE. And I spent, if you didn't read my bio, I spent 23 years in the Army, retired in 2000. And so a lot of the military training, the discipline I had in working as an engineer, had a lot to do with Six Sigma. So we didn't call it that in those days, but the attention to detail is basically what we focused on to make sure it was safe, and that we, when we worked on any kind of equipment, counted all of our tools and everything to make sure nothing got left inside of a aircraft engine compartment or something of that nature. So I'm familiar with how important that is to use the quality and lean techniques. It goes all the way back to Henry Ford, where he came up with innovations for mass production. One of the things that I think we might be returning to is Henry Ford, when he started creating this, his Model Ts, Model As, he started all the supply chains that he would need to create those cars. And so he had his own steel mill and his own mines that he mined the ore. They mined coal to heat up the ore for his furnaces. He grew plantation rubber for the tires and for the different types of shocks and things that they put on it. He owned all the forest and lumber that was cut to make the different wooden components that went on through the car. So everything that was involved with making his product, he had the raw materials. He owned the land and the material making for that. So there was no supply chain issues. They all worked for him. They were all his employees. And with the issues that you're seeing today with the international globalism of supply chain, we rely way too much on outbound or outsourced supplies. During the pandemic, we did not even have the ability to make our own medicines. We were waiting for China to get through the worst of theirs so they could send us the ingredients that would make the medicine. So we have a lot of restrictions in our country about manufacturing, and we've got a lot of costly rules that have to be followed, to the point where it makes it impossible, if not non-profitable, to do business in some arenas. But hopefully we'll come to our senses and make us reliant on ourselves instead of others when it comes to energy and when it comes to important things like food that's being an issue in supply chain right now. So this basically is what those last two chapters get into. It's talking about the different levels of Six Sigma. And the body of knowledge is basically the understanding about how lean and quality work. And so based on what color belt or what color certification you earn, there's more exposure and higher level. So a yellow would be like a team leader that's responsible for safety or process improvement that you could be eligible to work for. National average, if you've got a yellow belt certification versus you don't have a yellow belt certification, is about $10,000 a year. And so always better to have something that's going to boost your income potential. A green belt, it goes up in responsibility where you lead a team that has yellow belts, and you can work a project. Like they can say, hey, we found this issue at our workplace and we need to figure out, does this machine need to be first or third or fifth in the process? And so a green belt goes in and determines the best way through that value stream map on reducing the number of bottlenecks where things get backed up, or there's not enough machine space, or there's not enough time allotted to conduct that step in the process. And so that one usually is about 40 grand more a year than if you don't have one. It opens a lot more opportunities outside of maybe what you're doing right now. You could go work in healthcare, you could go work in sports, motorsports. All of them have green belts. And then you got the black belt. And this is a person that it's usually about 90,000 more if you've got one versus you don't, that you can make your income just doing process improvement, waste reduction, and working with teams of green belt and yellow belt members. And a black belt is certified to be able to create green belt and yellow belt users. And so they can train you, become certified, plus they lead you in major projects. And then the master black belt, this is where you have to be, the whole entire body of knowledge about lean and quality. And they normally are instructors, or they work at the corporate level for a very large scale type of a situation. And they have black belts that are working on different types of projects they're supervising below. So that's kind of the pyramid of skill that you can earn by going through the process of getting these certifications. So Lean Six Sigma 6. The 6 is what the lean sign looks like in green, in Greek rather. And so that's where the 6 Sigma comes in. But it's also the number of digits. So a million is got 6 zeros in it. It's talking about how many defects you can have in that million. And so the standard at the 6th level, there's lean 1, lean 2, lean 3, lean 4, lean 5, and lean 6. Lean 6 is about as perfect as you can get, and that's 3.4 defects per million. And so if you were working, let's say, on components for an artificial heart, or you're working in a nuclear plant, or you're working on an aircraft, you make a mistake in one of those areas, people's lives are lost. And so that's why you would have to have this high level of quality and this checks and rechecks on the process to make sure that it was done perfectly. In day-to-day operations, like if we're making, say, a starter for a car, that wouldn't kill somebody if it didn't work. And so they dropped down from a 6 to maybe a lean 4, where you can have maybe 350 oopses per million. The reason that they would drop it down is the cost associated with ensuring that you have that high quality, no defects. There's a lot of inspections. There's a lot of processes that require more advanced machinery. It takes more time. And so if it's not needed, then you don't pull the whole 6 level, 3 in a million defects. If I'm making hula hoops, which, if you know what those are, they're like rings of plastic, not really high tech at all, I may only use like lean 2. So every other one of these hula hoops could have something wrong with it. Like the staple could be in the wrong place. The color scheme could be off. The rattles, instead of having 6 pellets or BBs in there, it could have 5 or 2 or something. But it costs, $1 or $2. So there's not a whole lot of resources put into making sure those hula hoops are made exactly right. So then we look at define. Lean is a collection of practices, tools, and methodologies directed at improving the process efficiency while minimizing the waste and delays. And so there, at different companies, you can actually earn their version of a lean certification. I know Amazon has some similar type of design that they focus on their processes. And once you learn how to spot any kind of a screw up or something, then you can be elevated into a team leader position there based on the training and your attention to detail. There was one that Fastenal, which is a local manufacturer here that makes nuts and bolts and connectors, and they have gloves and everything for different types of stuff. But their colors for their company are blue, and they actually have a blue belt that they have their associates earn that teaches about safety and about process improvement and all that. So it's the same type of methodology, but having it from Six Sigma, which is who you're getting this from, tells that you've got the original course. And so if you go to work anywhere else, you already know what they want. And they probably would just say, well, here, have our blue one since you've got the real one. This is just our local one that's going to make sure that you are recognized in our plant having those same skills. There's some folks, this talks about not lean type folks. It talks about supermarkets, the post office, where you're waiting in line and nobody comes. I mean, I've been in one of those lines that I thought the store would close before I got service. And that's where they're using lean in a service type industry. They're timing to see how long it takes, say, each person to check out. And so if they were truly using the tenets and the training that goes along with lean, they would already know that on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, we usually have 70 customers in the store, and they're picking up items for like the next 2 days, and they're going to need to get in and out and start dinner, and they probably only have maybe 10 or 15 items. Did you notice that they started all these self-checkouts? And they put a lot of those there. So you got 6 or 8 of those that you can come in and get out without standing in line. But for those that maybe came on Tuesday and it just happened to fall on the first week of the month, and they're, say, a Social Security beneficiary or something, they're getting their pay that week, they may have a lot more groceries than 12 items. And so they're going to have to go stand in a line. Or you have larger families that are have to have more than 12 items just to prepare a meal. So doing the time studies, like recording the peanut butter and the jelly sandwich, they know how many customers come through their store every hour of every day. And not having the number of cashiers there available to accommodate a quick transaction, that is them deciding purposefully that they're not going to observe lean. They're just going to try to cut costs. I mean, there is some money involved in making sure that you do things right. And sometimes being cheap may have somebody not come back to your business again. So it's an investment, but it tends to make customers happy, and happy customers tend to make businesses successful. So if they always go by that mindset, then it's a good investment to make sure that they're staffed appropriately at the right times, and that their customers are treated with respect and they efficiency, and they get what they came for. Okay, I think that was they talk about customer value, and you're going to look at this in probably the employees' point of view, the employer's point of view, the supplier's point of view. You're going to see different points of view on how lean contributes to the organization being more successful. And it starts off here talking about establishing lean processes that take out all of these steps that are no value to the customer. So I kind of do that with my courses, and that's what I was explaining about this course. I'm eliminating a 3-hour ramble because it has no student value. You're my customer, and if you can get the information that I'm talking to you about right now on your own, and you can move at your own pace, That's a better value for you than having to sit through 3 hours of me doing death by PowerPoint. So in this overall, or this is our first one on orientation. I was just kind of touching on some of the slides, but that's not something I plan to do every week. Like I say, we want to discuss the 3 chapters, and I'll know when I open this up how many people have actually went out and done the work. So I'll know if I'm talking to people who just need the discussion and a review, or if I'm talking to people who haven't seen it and probably need a little bit of a tug to get them engaged in finishing it. Okay, so let me show you where I see our participation. It'll just show me in people. I see everybody that's supposed to be in the class. I can also see how long you've spent working on your assignments. I don't know if any instructors showed you this before, but I can see if somebody spent an hour or 6 minutes or 4 minutes. And so when they tell me that they may be having a situation, and I see that they've been out there for several hours, I believe they are having a situation. And here's where I can see anything that needs graded. So from the last time I graded, which is never, since I just set this up, it shows me any new assignments that have came in that need attention. And I can see that Jamie is already tearing this up out to chapter 9. So you're more than welcome to work ahead. I think the quickest I went through this yellow belt, and it took me somewhere around 3 days because I had other things going on to go through all the quizzes and then get to the actual exam. But I think the quickest I've had a student do this is 4 weeks. So you're welcome to work ahead, and you're welcome to go ahead and earn your yellow belt anytime that you feel you're prepared to get that exam, knock it out. But I was going to show you one of the things that happens whenever you do the exam. And Jamie, I'm going to open up one of yours just to show them what I see at my end.
That's fine.
All right, so I've got the first quiz, and in the directions, it's asking you to take a screenshot of the actual quiz and your what your results are. And so here I can tell very easily that this is chapter 1, and there's her 100%. Well, there was 10 questions in this one, but what I do, so I can, at a glance, when I look at your grade center, I know who's actually doing really well in the class. Anybody who gets 100 gets a bonus point. So she's getting 11 points for the work done here. And then I'll put in a great job. I mean, you don't need a big speech about finishing a quiz, but if you didn't get 80%, then I'm going to say, please retake this quiz until you get at least 80% of the content, because I want you to pass your yellow belt. So you either get 80% to 99, and you're going to get the number of points that are available to you. You get less than 80%, I'm going to look at what you got right. Say if you got 6 out of 10, then that's the points you would get is 6. And then I would tell you to retake it until you get 80%. But this 11 lets me know at a glance when I look at the grade book how many people I got that are going to earn their yellow belt. And so that's as simple as it is for me grading. I go out and I see whose turn work in since I was out here last, and I work my way down. And when I'm in here grading chapter 1, I can do a drop down, and it tells me that Caleb also has assignment done. And you can go back anytime you want and retake to get above 100 because you didn't know about that, and you'll get that additional point. It's 24 chapters, so that's 24 more bonus points that you can get by just going back and revisiting and getting your points up. But I just do that because I know that if you've got 100% on it, then that chapter is not going to give you any issues when it comes to taking the certification. So I grade everything that's been posted, and then I normally go back to the grades. And since this is brand new, I'm not going to be seeing anything crazy here, but you're going to have a current grade in here. This is going to give you your total points that you have to date. And when you see the grade, it means that's the last time I graded what your scores were, what your grade would be. So this week, it looks like we've got 10 points for your discussion, 20 for chapter 3. So it's got 20 questions. So that's 30. You got 15 in chapter 2. So that's 45. You got 10 in chapter 1. So that's 55. And you came to class. So that's 65 possible points. And so based on the 65 points, that's what your letter grade would be for the week when I put that in there. And then the next week, whatever points that you have possible to earn that week added to what you did this week, it's an ongoing grade to keep you and me on the same sheet of music. So if I say you got a B, you got a B. If your percentages, and sometimes that's jacked up. So that's why I put it on total instead of percentage. I'll show you what that looks like. So if I put it on percentage, it's giving you a percentage of what you attempted. So students who haven't had work graded yet, they don't have anything, but they could have 100% and just completed one assignment and did it all. And they didn't do the other 5 assignments. So it's misleading when we have the percentage over there, and even the grade's misleading when it shows up there because it's based on how many points that you attempted and earned. So I put this current grade in here. It's a manual job. I don't mind doing. You know, I got 6 of you or whatever. It's not that hard to do percentages. That will give you your real grade each week. And everybody that either comes to the class is going to get the 10 points for participation, or I'm going to have a phrase in the recording, and it'll be something like, for those of you who are watching this that didn't attend the class, please try to come next week, but send me a message that says orange juice. And so I write down whatever the code word is, and what we're almost an hour into the recording, somebody would have to watch the recording to get orange juice as the code word to tell me that they watched it. So I do that with the cheek and tongue kind of thing. If you send me a note saying I watched the video, you don't have to put orange juice in there. I trust you. Everybody in this class is an adult. I'm not going to be squeezing you for 10 points on participation. But I would like for you, if you can't make it, to come out here and maybe you'll hear something from a classmate when they start discussing what the chapters were about, or they give us an update about their assignments that would be of value to. So I would want you to come out and do it. All right, so what I'd like to do now is take a look at the 2 major assignments and see what kind of examples we got out there. So let's take a look at assignments. And your BCM assignment, let's see what I got there for examples. So this talks about peanut butter and jelly and recording it. And now this is not good. I don't see the examples there. It's another reason I always double check before I let you guys go, is I make sure that I do have good examples from previous classes. And I get permission from those students before I use their work. So I've got 2 really good ones I'll put in there. And then this 5S, I almost always have to put a new one in there because it's amazing. People one-up each other when they do these projects. Where's 5S? I'm missing it here. You'd think they'd be in alphabetical order. That's the template. Okay, it must be under this, the whole thing. There's like 3 steps in this. You're going to get 30 points for telling me what you want to do, and you're going to give me an update in like week 4 where you're going to get 20 points. And then when you actually finish the final project, you'll get the remainder of the points. But this one has a couple of examples in it. Let's see. This one was one of them. Yeah. Here's where he's cleaning his garage out. And he starts pulling out all of this stuff, this clutter that's, you know, he can't even walk through it. It looks like my garage. And so he starts sorting it by pulling everything out, and he puts the piles of stuff. And then some of these you can see like a little sticker on there or like a post-it note where he's like, give back to neighbor or donate to Goodwill or yard sale or whatever. So he's sorting the stuff that's going to go back in the garage, and he's kind of grouping it together where I want all of my hand saws in one place. I want all of my hammers in one place, that kind of stuff. And then he's tagging them for what gets given to neighbors or sold or thrown away. Or it could just be writing down, put on the left-hand wall or put in new cabinet, but you tag each item as to where it's going to go before it goes back in. And then the second S after sorting is a set in order. And here he's like putting in shelving so he can get stuff up off the floor and he can still be able to see it. And it's a pretty simple shelf. Some people just put them in boxes or these see-through containers where they can label it. And if you notice at the end of his shelf, he's got the label on what he wants to put on the shelf. So he's setting it in order so he can have more space and more organized area. And then you clean it. That's S for shine. And so he wipes down everything, makes sure the floor and the shelving and all that stuff's clean. They've done different studies, and it seems that if you have a clean room, you have less clutter in your mind too. You don't have distractions, and it's easier for you to leave that room clean. If you come into a room and it's cluttered or it's kind of disarrayed, you're just going to add to it by tossing something in a pile in the corner. Yeah, I should pan them around my office here. But the rule of thumb is if you clean it up, that it'll be easier for you to keep it clean. And so here he's talking about all of these antique boxes of nails that he got from his uncle or his grandpa. And he's finally getting to put them in some kind of order where it's the largest nail to the smallest nail. So there's some therapy that's going on here too. Besides this project, you're finding out what kind of a pack rat or you're discovering things you didn't even know you still had, but it's getting it out where now you can know how to find it and then you can make the most use of it. And so having these shelves all cleaned up and set aside, he's able to sort out and find parts and stuff he knows now. And here he has a table saw or hand saw that he never can find and put it out there on a shelf by itself. I think you can see it in this picture here where he's got his different saws and stuff spaced out where you can see it. This is the same thing in a closet. Like if you have winter and summer stuff, having those divided up and labeled, dark clothes to light clothes, having kids' toys that are going to be donated, or it's just an opportunity for you to get better organized. And so once he has everything clean, he starts putting the stuff back where he wants it to be when he finds it in the future. And in some businesses, they take a 5S like this and they actually paint around or draw around each one of the wrenches and the hammer. So if they look, they say, okay, the hammer is not back where it's supposed to be, or the adjustable wrench is missing. It makes it easier for you to keep track of all your tools and make sure they get back to, if somebody borrows it, like your neighbor or one of your family members, it makes it easier for you to see what's missing and keep track of. So here's some before pictures and some after. This is his floor before. He's got all these bikes hanging up after. You can see why he's an example, right? I want him to come to my house. And here's where he's got all the talking about doing the shine and the standardization. It's just having things set up by label that lets you put it back in that same location every time. And it also makes it easier for others to either find things. If you send them out to the garage, say, hey, go get me my saw. It's on the right side, the third shelf down, and it says saw on the label. It makes it a little easier for others to find things too. Now, sustaining is the final S, and that's where you've got some kind of a checklist that you want to maintain that clean, organized setup. And it could be a calendar even that says, all right, every other Saturday, I'm going to look at, make sure all my stuff in the garage is where it's supposed to be. But some students have taken this 5S to work, and they've been rewarded for organizing like a tool room or a battery charging station, even a parking lot, you know, making sure that the parking lot was set up like it was supposed to be. So this is what his garage looks like now, where he can take on projects, and he can actually park a car in if he wants to. And that's kind of what he actually made some money selling stuff he wasn't using anymore. He said he still has got some work left to do, and it's an ongoing thing. So he's still got a pile of fishing stuff, camping stuff that he wants to sort through, but that's fine. You know, he made a system now, and he's confident in what the benefits are of having it organized like that. So that's what the 5S looks like. And it can get as deep as you want, or it can be as easy as you want. I think the other example isn't that in depth. You know, the person didn't really spend weeks on it, like it looks like this one did. Let's see if I can pull that one up. It was the second one.
But I have a question. If my house is already organized and all my pantries are organized, same thing with my closet. The only thing that's a mess is my work truck. Can I use that?
First of all, I'm scared of you if you're that organized. You could just take pictures of your organized space if you want to. The before pictures are just to show that you had to start somewhere, and then it's the improvement is what we're looking for. But yeah, a work truck works fine. I've had one of my students had a horse trailer that she always wanted to organize, you know, have all the harnesses and the stuff for to take care of the animal where it's supposed to be. And she took pictures of the before and standardized it, and still is bragging about how versatile her and other people ask her to organize their horse trailers wherever she goes to meet horse people. But yeah, the work truck would be fine. But this one here, I think, is a closet or it's a kid's room that the student is trying to improve on. You can see they use tape to tell this is summer clothes, toys no longer played with, that kind of stuff. Put the little mess maker to work cleaning up to give them some kind of responsibility or some kind of, you know, this is how it's supposed to be, and this is how much work's involved in it, to kind of get them involved in it. And then her checklist that they want for daily and weekly, and made him some rules on what he's supposed to do in each room. Poor kid hates my class, but it really, the student was telling me that even weeks later that her kid tells people, I help mommy do homework. I help mommy do her college homework. And the kid really does try to chip in to help pick up the stuff afterwards, and is responsive to help them with cleaning. So make it fun if you can, make it useful. Don't make it just an assignment, you know, that you have to do. You got 3 weeks to figure out where could I best spend this time and effort. And it's 350 points of your grade. So it's worth the time to put into it to make it successful. And I may have to pull up let me look in my download file to see if I can find one of those peanut butter sandwich jobs. I mean, it's pretty eventless besides watching the video of making a peanut butter sandwich. But I wanted to show you that one's a pretty simple project to finish too. Let's see, downloads. And it's probably going to be last semester-ish. Value stream map. I just saw it. So here is a value stream map. Let's see if this is just our download. And I'm going to send you an improvement to this download. This is what the download looks like. And so this is an example page where it's got like, check your credit, approve it, send it to the warehouse, pick the order, check the order, move to shipping. that was like an example of what it looks like. And if you're doing the video, you're going to use the second page, the template that's like blank, and it'll be something like get bread. And so in your video, you're doing each step. So that one took me 15 seconds to find. Okay. And then you're going to like get peanut butter. And that one took me a little longer because I had to dig through the pantry to find it. So each one of these, you got like 22 steps. I think the most somebody had making a sandwich was like 10. But the more detail, the better. So then you can find out all of the things that go into it. So when we do the value map, we've got every one of these boxes that we used in the process has a label as to what that step was. And then the D is the delay. That's how long it took to do that particular step. It shows up in the second one. And so now I want to find out what the second one would take. And so I'm going to subtract these first steps. It's usually like 5 to find the jelly, find a knife, get a plate out. So like the first 5 steps are the setup. And you're going to take all that time out of it because you're not going to be doing that again, making the second one. And then you look at your last steps. It could be 4 or 5 steps where put away bread, put away peanut butter, put away jelly, put dish and knife in the sink. You won't do that making each one of the sandwiches. So what we're looking for is the time in these D marks that it takes to actually assemble the sandwich. So this comes with the video. You're actually going to send me the clip, the 2 or 3 minutes of you making a peanut butter sandwich. Then this gets attached to show this is the actual map, the value stream map for your particular sandwich. And that's that project. It's that simple. Let me see if I do have one of the peanut butter. I think it just says PB&J or something. Some of them are pretty, somebody made, because they didn't like peanut butter or jelly, made something out of like fish and cheese or something. I'm like, okay, you're going to eat that. Yummy for you. But it's really up to you what the contents of the sandwich are. It's just showing that you understand how you can strip out stuff that's not repetitious and making the next one. And so I'll have that posted in your assignment instead of keeping you here. Wait a minute, I just seem to be seeing. Instead of having you wait for me to figure out where it's at. That's Matt. My wife works on my computer sometimes. That looks like a video. PB&J. Let's see if I can get her over here. Oops, I made it full page. I got these on 2 different. Come on over here. We go. So she's got somebody else narrating, or she's got her kid making it while she narrates it. But what I want to bring to your attention is this time bar, this slide bar going along the bottom. Let's see if I can pause one of these. So as you watch the timeline of the video go by, you saw that that took 4 minutes and 43 seconds. But at any point where they're doing the next step, you can hit pause and see how far along in the video you are. So if the first one took 20 seconds and then the next step took 15 seconds, that's what you put in your chart. Some of these I can't read on this that are coming from cell phones. I have to get them reinforced or get the software that reads it. And I don't share these normally with people. These are people that said I could. So here's somebody in their nightgown making this. That's your deal. That's your deal. Okay. So that is basically what our two major projects are. And it's also giving you an idea of what to expect as far as what we're going to do while we're in class. I'm just trying to get my screen back. I think this one is where I was at. Okay. So at any time, if you have a question, you have a comment, or you want to say anything, please do. There's no etiquette or anything that says you have to raise your hand or any of that stuff. But I would ask you to check in at least once a week, because I have announcements that come out that gives you updates on how we're doing in the class and anything that's upcoming. I try to cover that. I did email the syllabus, but I think that you can find that in the announcements as an attachment. Otherwise, you can just hit edit and you can hit print, and it'll, if somebody wants a printed version of it. I would suggest that you go by modules, because this breaks down the course into each week, what we're going to be doing that week. And so module 1, week 1, you can keep up with what is due and know that you got everything covered for the week. But the majority, it's 3 chapters towards your yellow belt. You take a screenshot and you upload that to me, because I can't see your other end. I can't see how you're progressing. And that's the only way I know that you've got through it, is if you give me a screenshot. So you got those 2 outside, BSM and 5S. And then you've got the exam itself. It's pretty relatively simple, straightforward on what you have to do to earn the certification and to earn the grades in here. So that's kind of the overview. We went through chapter 1 pretty deep, looking at the other 2 chapters. We've got the basics of Six Sigma. Let me see if I can stop this here. Okay, so this second chapter has the business case template in it, and it basically is letting you look at a situation to find out if they're okay. One more time. It's letting you do like a inspection, or it's giving you an idea of what you could improve by doing a lean project on a particular area. And that's where you start off when you do any kind of consulting or anything, is you're going to, the business case kind of puts the value on what the time and the effort is to spend on doing that improvement. So if I was going to do something for hula hoops, you know, that are relatively low cost and not very valuable, they probably wouldn't want to put a whole lot of money in improving the process. But let me see if I can. So this you're going to hear about in any management course that you take, about inputs, and that's usually raw materials and labor and energy. And then it goes into a process. It could be a service where a dentist goes to school and gets his license, and he hires a staff, and he gets a location and gets all the equipment. But then the process is actually providing that dental service. And the outputs are, you know, people leaving pain-free with great smiles, and him, every time I see him, he gets to add a new room to his house. So being more successful is an output. But where management comes in is this center box, this process, because you can put crap into a process and you'll get crap that comes out. But if you put the great raw materials like wood that hasn't got any kind of defects, plastic that's not contaminated, steel that's been forged to where it's a high tensile strength. You put good things into the process, then you can manage the machinery and the labor and the manipulation of creating some type of a sellable end item. So the output is a high quality, high value item. But you'll see that involved in this process is where you make the money, because you can improve that process, or you can take the cost of that process down. That's where you are value to the process. And let's see if I can get this. This is what I was talking about. This is how you see math in this course. So the concept of inputs and outputs is Y equals F with X. So Y represents the output. In other words, what you get from the process. The X represents the input. And so the F is this function of making the inputs processed into outputs. So the only way you're going to see this again is if you open up an Excel spreadsheet that lets you see the different types of math that's involved in it. And they actually ask you, what is the equation for describing the process of inputs and outputs? And so Y equals F Bowleg X Bowleg would tell you that that's what the actual expression looks like. And it's in the quiz. And so if you study the quiz when you're getting ready to go for your certification, you'll be reminded of this one math function that's explained. And they don't have you do the math, they just tell you what that function is. And so this one talks about relationships to systems. And this is with more than one input. So we got one input's X1, second input's X2. And this is with 5 inputs. So let's say that you had to have 5 different raw materials put together, like metal and plastic and wood. And so you wanted to track each one of those different raw materials in the process. That's what this math equation would look like. And that's what they call systems thinking. That's as far as you go. They don't get it any deeper than just showing you this. And if it's more than one X, that's why, is because there's more than one process. That's what they're explaining by showing you this. And here I was talking about, you were going to see from different perspectives. You got the voice of the customer. In other words, what do we want out of it as customers? What's our expectation? And it's supposed to be the loudest. It's the one you listen to and you answer. But then you got the voice of business. And that just means that you are actually doing the process where it makes sense, it's profitable, nobody's getting hurt. And the voice of the employees falls into this voice of the business to create that workable process. And then you've got the voice of the process. And so if you're doing something and it keeps screwing up, say you were making those peanut butter sandwiches and you were using stale bread that fell apart, the process is messed up because the inputs you didn't have quality inputs. Or now you got to add a new input and you got to toast the bread first to make it hold up against putting peanut butter and jelly on. So this voice of is just saying what the perspective of, or what are we checking when we look at it from this angle. And this I'm using today when I talk operations management. The folks that are going through that course, they have to know how to use the fishbone diagram. And if you haven't seen this before, it's how we use problem solving. And so we put the problem in this little box, the fish's head. And this one says low website traffic. And so what we have for the bones on this fish are what we think are the root of that problem. And so one of the things that maybe is suggested when you got this meeting and people are saying, well, what do you think it is? would be the product is the problem with low traffic at this website. You're selling a crappy product. And another one says, well, it's the web development. The website doesn't really draw people, or it doesn't track how many people come out. You got web design, and then you got digital media. You're on the wrong platform, or you're not getting to our market that we want to reach. And so now we've got these first root cause, basically, these on the bones on the fish that kind of tell what problems need to be addressed to solve the problem. And so these little offshoot spines are contributors or symptoms to that particular problem. So under the product, we got wrong product, wrong price, wrong promotion. So it could be any of those three things that make that the wrong product. And then under web design, we got keyboards and navigation. So can they navigate it using a touch screen, or can they navigate it using a phone? Do they have to be at a desktop? And here at web design, it's got visual impact. Is it colorful? Content, use of video. Does it have multimedia in it, or is it just reading along and boring as heck? And then we got digital media. Is it, are there AdWords in it? Is there video? And is there a CEO, SEO in there? Is it connected to other things that people would visit, basically? So if you were to do one of these, say why your teenager doesn't get up in time for school, you could put different things on here, like watches TV too late, has phone in the room. You got all these different things that you know are contributing to that problem. And then you might have a conversation with them, and they go, no, it isn't, because I got a TV in here. I don't even watch that TV. You can take it out. It's because, my friends keep asking me questions on social media or something. But this is what a basic problem-solving diagram looks like. It is the fishbone. And then this gets in depth, explaining those lines that I just discussed with you. This is a term, critical to quality, means that this one area or this one step can make the difference between a high quality output or outcome and a problem output. And so critical to quality gives an example here that if you've got a phone, then maybe the operating system, say where you're running an old type of phone, or the battery doesn't recharge or doesn't hold a charge that long, or you can't really take that great a picture with the camera, your image quality. All of those could have characteristics that contribute to somebody, a customer, enjoying that product. So the quality is not where it's supposed to be. And so anything that's critical quality deserves your attention to go through some type of process improvement. And what happens if you don't have high quality? Well, the cost of poor quality usually means you lose a customer. It could mean that somebody loses their life. It could be that somebody's injured, but this talks about poor quality, cost of poor quality when patients are in a hospital shortly after they've been discharged. So you left the hospital thinking you're okay, and you end up back at it. Poor quality occur when the company's brand is damaged after a string of product recalls have been issued. All of those airbags and brakes that were going bad on all these cars really did damage the brand name. Cost of poor quality occurs when patrons of a restaurant enter a critical Yelp review. So if you get a bad meal, chances are you're not going to line up to come back to that place again. So you want to make sure that you are doing the right things to improve the process and to actually guard the process to make sure that you're turning out the same high output of quality, because you screw up enough, people do go away. And like if I had to keep waiting in lines and only had 12 items, or to be able to check myself out, I probably would complain first, but then I may find somewhere else to do my shopping. This kind of lets us use a Prathio chart, and it lists by highest of importance what is discovered whenever you check into a problem. And so like the fishbone, you can use this type of a analysis. It's a visual analysis. And face it, managers don't have a lot of time. Sometimes they're not the brightest people that you're working for. And so if you have a colorful chart, they can tell at a glance what you're trying to explain to them. Like in the fishbone, you can say, here's the problem and here's what we think we have to, the different root causes we need to address. Well, here this can say, here is the number one issue is the wrong item was sent. Number two issue was damaging in the packaging. Number three, it was missing the like instruction or brochure. And number four, it was missing a part. And so based on the 80-20, it says that we should start at the highest 80%, which would be these two items, to focus our attention on, and that they would make the most significant impact on improving quality. So the wrong item sent, yeah, now you got to pay for reverse logistics, having the item sent back. And that's usually about 12 times more in cost than sending it the first time, because then it's got to be handled by other people, third party, put in another warehouse, and somehow it ends up either being sold at a discount because it was a return, or it never has the same value as it originally did. So making sure that you send the right item is job one. That's my biggest complaint with Amazon or any of the online, is they send me wrong stuff all the time. It's crazy. Kaizen is basically continuous improvement. It's a Japanese word for continuous improvement. And that's what we are working towards with Lean, is we have a starting point. Like in your 5S project, you've got this garage with all kinds of stuff in it. It's continuous improvement. So if you pick up some of the stuff one day, you sort it out another day, you're continually making it more organized. And it's the same thing in a work environment. You see a process, you're down there where on the ground floor where the rubber meets the road. And one of our students is a truck driver. And so he probably goes into different situations where there's a dock that's got people contacting him saying, hey, we expect you to be in like 15 minutes. We've assigned you door number 16. The security gate has already been notified you're coming in. It's smooth sailing. They come in, he disconnects his trailer, and he goes on to his next job. Or you could be trying to contact somebody to bring your load in, your trailer in. Nobody answers emails or the phone or texting. And there's a line backed up out onto the expressway. And they're putting you behind on your next job because you are just supposed to just drop this trailer and then pick up your next load there and send it on down to your next stop. So that continuous improvement is saying, why do we have trucks waiting to get in here? Why aren't there more people working the dock to make sure it gets cleared? Or why haven't we told them ahead of time that, hey, we got an hour delay, why don't you stop somewhere and have lunch? And we will send you like all's clear, door 15 is yours, no waiting. To work with the people. I mean, the frustration is not seeing some type of a process in action to make the situation better. And so that's what we train you with this lean and quality is you identify, hey, there's a problem. We got this line of trucks out on the interstate. You don't let them wait out there until the last person gets in at midnight. You do something now that's going to shorten that wait, and it's going to relieve the frustration. It's going to let these people get to their next destination with the least amount of delay. And they're going to be compensated. If a truck gets delayed, the clock starts on your warehouse, and you're going to end up paying that person every 15 minutes, 75, 300, 500 bucks an hour to wait on you to get your collective stuff together. And so it costs the organization too whenever you're that unorganized. And again, I'm saying that we won't do this slide discussion. We'll dive into maybe one hot spot in each chapter in our future meetings. I don't see them lasting more than 25, 30 minutes. So you guys can come in, contribute, get your questions answered, and you can go on about your life instead of hanging out here all night. So this goes down the list of the different elements inside the business case and different types of elements that are in it. The metrics, of course, are the data that's going to show that you made it feasible to finish it within a certain amount of time. And then the financial says, hey, we can finish it at a certain amount of money. And so that kind of gives you an overview of a case study. This is a cost benefit projection. It's basically finding out, is it worth the effort and the money to make this improvement? And this kind of gives you an example of an estimated $100,000 to make the improvement. And the project's 450,000. So it's a 4.5 ratio that is going to either make the improvement or override on cost. And again, they just give you these examples. They don't expect you to become accountants either. Okay, last chapter. Let's see if there's anything. Oh, yeah, this is a very important one. We're going to look at the DMAC download. And so, again, I say you should go through and get your 5 or 6 downloads, get those knocked out so you know where they're at and what's in them. It'll give you kind of a better idea of how to use them. This guy's still loading up for me. Oh, I had it and lost it. Where is it? There it is. All right. So DMAC is an acronym. There's quite a few of them in business, but it stands for define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And so this is when you're working on a problem, it gives you some verbiage here about what you would do in this cycle. Is first you have to identify what the problem is and tell what's wrong and how you think it could maybe be solved. I remember in one of my classes, we did an exercise similar to this, and I took input from the students, and they said, well, let's find out why all these other students are late. I said, okay, well, what do you think the issue is? And I wrote on there, students late for class. And so, man, your peers can be harder on you than any instructor could. These poor kids, they're saying, well, they don't plan their life. They didn't set their alarm early enough. They didn't give themselves enough time to travel. They didn't locate childcare in time. They didn't ask for time off from work. They got all this list of things they thought was contributing to the problem. And so then we say, okay, well, how can we measure if this works? Like right now we have like 6 people that aren't in class. Well, we should have 100% attendance every time. I'm like, that's probably never going to happen, but okay. And then they want to analyze it. They said, let's find the root cause for why these people are late for class. I said, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to ask them instead of just guessing. And so through the course of the class, these other 6 students showed up. Some of them like 10 minutes late, some 15, some a half hour. And to the person, each one of them said, I could not find a parking spot. And so people who were on time said, yeah, I have to come like an hour early and catch people leaving their class so I can get a parking spot. And I said, so how long was you outside trying to find a parking spot? Well, half an hour ago I was here, and it took me that long to get a spot. So that's why they were 15 minutes late or 20 minutes late. So really, when we discovered by asking them what the situation was, and then other people in the class said, yeah, I can't find a parking spot either. We found the parking was the problem, not people being late for class. And so you have to really do a little bit more investigating, a little bit more research to find out what is the main problem. What is the problem? If you identify the wrong problem, then you're solving the wrong problem. They were going down this road where, well, let's see if we can help find them better daycare. Let's see if we can get them wake up calls or buy them alarm clocks or something. You know, they were going down the wrong road here. These people were showing up at school. They just couldn't find a parking spot. So this is something that class couldn't fix, but we made this a project where during class, we all went outside, and I had a fourth of the class go to the north, one go to the south, east, and west. I say, this was downtown. Just go about 5 blocks, and I want you to count the parking spaces. And so if they were on the street, they were counting the number of cars. If they came to a parking garage or a parking lot, they counted the parking spots in it. And 5 blocks out from downtown, they were able to find like 430 parking spots. And so I said, okay. So the next day I contacted the registrar's office, and this was on like a Tuesday, and it was around 2 o'clock. I said, how many classes and students are on campus on Tuesdays between like 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock? And so it was like 3,500. And so I said, okay, how about at 2 o'clock? How many would be in class? That's about 850. So 850 students were trying to get into 420 parking spots. There was really a parking issue. So we look here, it says identify possible causes of the problem. It was too many classes scheduled at the same time and not enough parking spots. And so when you looked at identifying solutions, we came up with a couple of solutions. The no cost solution, like they don't have to spend any money, is just spread out the class schedule more. When we checked it, there wasn't hardly any classes on Monday or Friday. And so the next semester, they actually did take some of the Tuesday classes and put them on Monday and on Friday. Well, nobody enrolled in them. Apparently Monday and Friday aren't good class days. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are the peak class days. Tuesday being the number one. You're in it now. You're proof of that. So that didn't work. And so we said, well, then we're going to have to come up with more parking spots. Well, they identified the fairgrounds as having something like 2,000 parking spots that are available most Tuesdays. And so they put out this big campaign, hey, free parking at the fairgrounds, and we'll have a shuttle bus come by every 5 minutes to bring you right to the front door of the college. And then after classes, every 5 minutes, they will take you back to your car. We had 3 shuttle buses, and within a week, one of them broke down. So now the 5 minutes went to like 10 minutes. And then by probably week 3 of the semester, there was 1 shuttle bus. And so it was like a half hour to 45 minutes. You're waiting for this person to go around, pick up people and take them. It got to where fewer and fewer people were using the parking at the fairgrounds. Plus, a couple folks said they had things stolen. Their car was broken in while I was over there. So that didn't work. So they did spend a little bit of money on hiring 3 shuttle drivers and have gas we already had the shuttles, but they did spend a little bit of money there to try to fix the problem. They ended up building a 3-story parking garage downtown on our campus that had somewhere around, I think 30,000-ish parking spots. It was like 1,500, is that right, per level? Anyways, they also bought and leased the Children's Museum parking, 2 or 3 vacant lots they made in the parking lots. So they got the number of parking spots up to over 4,000. And it did alleviate a lot of people not being able to find a parking spot, but they had to spend some money. They got a grant for something like $3 million to help build the parking garage, but they had to raise the rest of the money. So they identified the solutions. We went with the simplest one first. Then it took about 5 years of us doing this project every semester for them, the president's office, to finally take it serious and invest in building the parking garage. So students made that happen. And then here's talking about how do we document the plan? How do we show that this is working? Since the pandemic, they've never had full parking spots. I can tell you, I was at Lawrence campus today. There was not a parking spot anywhere. So apparently we're back on track to have full classrooms and more people returning to campus, because I had to park next door. And I'm like 2 hours early. So again, I had students that were coming in late to my class today because they were searching for parking spots at Lawrence. They don't have a parking garage. They do have plenty of parking, but students don't realize that they have their own parking lot behind the campus. They were parking in front. That's for guests usually to park. And so that one got full and people were just parking in grass and everything after that. But that was kind of a long about way of telling you how the DMAC works: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And you're going to use DMAC in like 3 or 4 of your logistics classes. So it's something I would commit to memory, the problem solving acronym. And they ask you about on the exam and on the quizzes. They'll ask you what comes first. Do you measure or you define the problem? So they kind of ask questions in that type of a format. Okay. So I think we're going to wrap this up. That's our first 3 chapters in the Yellow Belt. I have recorded this and I covered our syllabus, our assignments, gave some examples, and we went out to Six Sigma. We looked at the pace as 3 chapters per week. So I'm going to hit stop record here, and then I'll answer any of your questions off the record, and then we'll call it a night. Let's see if I can get this right toolbar back up. Okay, here we go.
Well, thank you. You have a wonderful evening.
All righty, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
Yes, thank